How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Awesome. This is amazing. I'm glad you guys all came out to support. My name is Nina. I work here at the Cartoon Art Museum. I'm the program coordinator. I've been fortunate enough to meet our presenter today, who is an avid volunteer for the Cartoon Art Museum. We encourage you all to get involved, whether you become a member, just come and visit, come out to events like these, watch the computer timeout, beautiful advertising for our presentation screen. So I'll get that back up in a moment. I'm also tech support. So we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. We're about to announce next weekend is Star Wars Day, Free Comic Book Day, Revenge of the Sith, or 5th, excuse me, or 6th, depending on how you go it. So it's like the whole weekend is all Star Wars, as well as Cinco de Mayo. So it should be a fun time over here. So we'll basically be having events going on Friday through Sunday all next weekend. So if you have friends who you think should have been here today to check out the exhibits, please encourage them to come either on their own or with you. And if they're like kicking and screaming as you're dragging them in, that's okay. We appreciate that anyways. But hopefully not necessary. So today what we have for you is a little treat in terms of getting to sort of re-understand a decade of Marvel movies. In how long do you think you're going to crunch this down into?
Hour, maybe less.
About an hour or less. So that's 10 years in less than an hour. So I'm really excited. I know helping to translate your presentation from the physical board that you made at home into this helped me prepare for the movie. So I think it'll help everybody else. Even if you've already seen it, I think this is going to help you sort of notice things that maybe you saw but you weren't quite sure what something was. So I always like to get that insider information. If you haven't checked out the exhibition, you can kind of see on this wall, we've got art that was either drawn or written by this guy named Jim Starlin. He was the first guy to ever draw the big villain Thanos, and then he was the main writer on all the Infinity War comics. So if you really want to see where it all comes from, you can check it out here in the museum. And if you want to pay attention when you go to the movie, in the credits you'll see a line, there's like one long line that's a big thank you to just Jim Starlin for how his work influenced what the movie is for us today. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce AnnaBella Vaca, who's an amazing, like I said, volunteer artist, as you can see behind us. So this is, you just had a show that was up this past Friday. So feel free to check that out. I know you have a few things, a few prints for sale that you can...
Yes, I do. This Star-Lord back here and all of these Spider-Man and all the different colors are for sale.
If you want to support a local artist, a emerging artist if you will, feel free to talk to you about that after the presentation. And I thank you for doing this so much. We kind of offered for you to do this a few weeks ago and you were like, yeah, let's totally rock it out. So I'll let you do that now.
Alright, cool.
Thank you.
So
everybody give her a little encouragement.
I'm AnnaBella, as I was previously said. I am a visual artist, novelist, filmmaker, and I love Marvel, obviously. So we'll begin at the beginning with stuff that hopefully you guys kind of sort of know, like characters. This is Iron Man, also known as Tony Stark. Everyone knows that he doesn't have like a secret superhero identity. Everyone knows that that's him. Pretty much he was in like the weapons industry, but then was like, you know, that's kind of dangerous. So after he got hit by one of his own weapons and got shrapnel in his heart, he decided to make this suit, which is powered by the arc reactor, which is this little like light thing right here, which also functions to keep him alive. That's really all you need to know about him. He also invented this thing right here. I don't know if you can read that. That's an artificial intelligence system that he built for his house and his suits called Jarvis, which stands for just a really very intelligent system. It's a mouthful. And that's kind of like his little handy helper voice thing that he carries around with him. This is the Hulk. There's not really much to him other than gamma radiation plus anger equals green rage monster. This is Thor, the god of thunder. He is from another planet called Asgard. Well, not really planet, like another world called Asgard. He is the god of thunder and can't really see it, but he has a little hammer, which I cannot pronounce the name of. But that pretty much like helps him wield his lightning and powers. That's really all that happens in that one. And also first appearance Hawkeye right here. I just went out of order a little bit. This is Iron Man 2. This is Rhodey, one of Tony Stark's best friends, who is also the War Machine. He has his own suit. That's this one right here. And first appearance Black Widow. She's a Russian assassin, spy, really badass and awesome. And then this is Captain America, also known as Steve Rogers. Back in the 1940s, during the World War II, he allowed a German scientist to experiment on him and got super soldier serum. So he's like really strong and stays young. And he fought against the Nazi science division called Hydro. They're bad guys, obviously, because they're Nazis. No one likes them. Their leader is Red Skull, which is this little thing in the back. Pretty self-explanatory. He's a red skull. But he has a body too. He also had the same super soldier serum, but it didn't really go very well for him, and his face melted off. So he's a bad guy. Yeah, and Steve Rogers has his buddies Peggy Carter and Bucky Barnes. They all fought and won the war, but unfortunately Bucky Barnes died in that movie. And Captain America crashed a plane and ended up frozen and sleeping for 70 years until he was found for Avengers. Now, what made Red Skull so powerful is because he had a really, really powerful weapon and like energy source known as the Tesseract, which is the first Infinity Stone that we see. It's also known as like the Space Stone. It's pretty much like a portal to the other end of space, like a wormhole sort of thing. So if you touch it, like you, whoa, zapped into somewhere way far away and no way to get back. So that's not very good. So that ended with Steve Rogers recovering it, but before he did, Red Skull touched it like directly and was shot out into space. So might be alive, might be dead. Who knows? That's what happened to him. And yeah, Steve Rogers went to the ice, and that's what happened there. So that brings us to Avengers, which is when all these guys come together to fight this dude. This is Loki. He's also of Asgard and is the brother of Thor. He's the god of mischief, kind of the bad guy, at least in this one. And he comes to Earth thinking that he's like a god and like a ruler and that all of us are dumb and need his guidance. And he wants to rule the world. And he comes with this scepter, this thing right here, which has the next Infinity Stone, which is this little like glowy part right here, which is the Mind Stone, which will come into play a little bit later. Basically, like what he uses with it is mind controls, like few characters, like Hawkeye and a scientist, to help him out. He brings a whole army. It's scary, and then all these guys fight and win. This is Nick Fury. He's the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is like the government section part that like recruited all of the Avengers. They're good guys. And then this is Maria Hill. That's like one of his second in commands. She's pretty cool. She doesn't have any powers, like neither does Nick Fury, but they're good guys. We like them. So Avengers pretty much ends. They win. I mean, New York's a little damaged, but it'll be okay. And it ends with Thor taking Loki and the Tesseract, which Loki had stolen to like use. And he takes both of them back to their own planet, Asgard. And the scepter is left with S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't know why, just that's where he's left. Right after that, we have Iron Man 3. So, of course, aliens falling out of the sky would be pretty scary. So Iron Man's kind of dealing with a little bit of PTSD from that whole experience. And remember how he had the arc reactor to like survive? Yeah, he gets that fixed. And those are like the key points of that movie. Like, I'm kind of just like recapping. Of course, there's more to all of this, but yeah. So he fixes it, so he no longer needs that to survive. But of course, he's going to keep it because it powers all of his suits and most of the Avengers technology. Thor: The Dark World. This is Jane Foster, Thor's girlfriend. She encounters our next Infinity Stone, which is the Ether, also known as the Reality Stone. And that one basically just gives like the user the power to like shift reality, where like everything can go into darkness, or he can like make illusions that look very, very realistic. Like he can make us look like we're in Hawaii right now, or like whatever. Like that's what that could be used for. And that ends with Thor recovering it, but he does not take that one back to Asgard because the Tesseract is gone.
Recycle.
It's gone. Basically, the Tesseract is on Asgard, and at the end of the film, we hear, like, this is a direct quote, like, it's too dangerous to keep two Infinity Stones so close together, like, on the same planet. Like, that's not good. So instead of putting both of these in Odin's treasure vault, Odin's like the king of Asgard, they take this one somewhere else. This will come back on.
There we go.
Okay, so they take this one to this guy who is also,
There
there we go.
You made a little bit.
This guy right here, who is the collector. And,
There we go.
okay.
Okay, now you're good.
This is the collector. He has like the largest collection in the entire galaxy, and they leave this with him because they don't want to have two Infinity Stones really close together because that's very dangerous. We'll come back to him in a second. Winter Soldier, so like SHIELD, how they were good guys, and remember Hydra? Yeah, it turns out Hydra has also been kind of like hiding inside SHIELD for those 70 years that Captain America was asleep. So those are bad guys. They come and like kill a bunch of people and steal the scepter from SHIELD. And remember Bucky Barnes? Yeah, he's not dead. He's known as the Winter Soldier now. He also got the same super soldier serum. And Hydra like messed with his mind, so he doesn't know he's Bucky Barnes. And he was like under their like mind control for all of those years, killed a lot of people. So he's kind of a bad guy, but he's still Captain Rogers' best friend. So of course Cap will do anything for him. We also get a new character known as Falcon, also known as Sam Wilson. He has wings. Really all there is to him. So all of that happens, and that takes us to Avengers Age of Ultron right here. So like I said, Tony Stark was having a lot of PTSD from the first Avengers. So he still like kind of has that and like, is afraid that more aliens will come. So he wants to create this new robot that will stop the aliens like, before they can like even like land on Earth. Like something that will just get rid of them, that's really powerful, that will protect the world. So him and Bruce Banner, who is like the other version of Hulk, because like the human version, yeah. So they both work together to create this artificial intelligence system known as Ultron. And you know, making robots doesn't always end very well. So Ultron has this brilliant idea and says, you know, the Avengers people, they're what's wrong with the world, so let's just kill them all, you know? So he runs away, builds himself this scary body that you can't really see, and he has this whole idea to lift a city called Sokovia, which is like in the middle of Europe somewhere and isn't actually a real place, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So he has this idea to lift that city into the sky and drop it like a meteorite and kill everyone. Now before that happens, he steals the scepter from Hydra after they'd already experimented with the scepter, like the Mind Stone, which is like also very powerful. Like we already saw that like the Tesseract was used to build weaponry, so why not the Mind Stone? So Hydra creates her. She's Wanda Maximoff, but has superpowers that come from the Infinity Stone. She has like mind power. She can like move things and pretty much like telekinesis. And she can also like unlock people's greatest fears. Yeah, that's her thing. So she has a bunch of like mindly powers because they come from the Mind Stone. And she's from Sokovia, so she doesn't want to see her city destroyed. So as soon as she finds out his real plan, she's like, you know, I'm gonna help the Avengers. We need to stop this guy. So they interrupt a weapons trade in Wakanda. from this guy. This is Ulysses Claus. You might recognize him from Black Panther. He stole a bunch of vibranium and was selling it to Ultron, and Ultron still ended up taking a bunch of it. And he created the Vision, which is this dude. Now Vision is created from human flesh, not actual human flesh, but like when you get hurt and then they cover it up with this kind of plastic alloy stuff. That's what he's made of. He's also he was designed by, he also had Tony Stark and Bruce Banner also worked on him after they stole Vision from Ultron. So he's kind of parts of them too. And it's also part vibranium, which means he's crazy strong and pretty much indestructible. And what gives him life is this little thing on top of his head, which is the Mind Stone. So the Mind Stone is actually inside of him. And that's kind of what gives him life. Along with Jarvis over here, he was also put, they're combined. So he sounds like Jarvis. So he helps the Avengers, along with her, defeat Ultron. They still destroy the city, but everyone else down here is okay. And that's how that one ends. And because, the Avengers always win. They won here, so they won again. Except Hulk is kind of sad because, he destroys stuff, and he feels the whole world hates him, which is kind of true, because everyone's afraid of him. Who wouldn't be afraid of this big green guy? So he runs away in a Quinjet, which is a fancy plane, and goes into the ghost mode, and no one knows where he is. He just leaves. This is Ant-Man. Kind of self-explanatory. He can shrink to the size of an ant, or he can also grow into Giant-Man. Yeah. That's really all that is important for that one. He also battles Falcon, so that kind of gives him a free pass into the Avengers, but we don't really see him actually join up in that movie. These are the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is Star-Lord. He's kind of human, and the rest of these dudes are creepy aliens that are really sassy and jam awesome music. And they encounter our next Infinity Stone, which is the Orb. Now on the inside of this, except there's nothing actually in that one, but on the inside of it, there's the next Infinity Stone, which is the Power Stone. And that one basically gives the holder power to just destroy everything, really quickly. They said wheat in a field, you can just destruction. And the thing about that one and all of the Infinity Stones, if you touch it directly, you have to be very, very strong to actually wield it and hold it. So if I were to touch this now, I would just be dead. I couldn't hold it. But an Asgardian or an other alien could wield it because they're a being of very extraordinary strength. Now they think it's a good idea to sell it to this dude, who also has the ether, if you guys remember. He's not the best dude to sell Infinity Stones to. He's not very trustworthy, and he's also trying to collect them because if they're all brought together, the people or person who could wield them would have unlimited power, which would be good but dangerous and insane. Now they also encounter this dude, this nasty purple guy. We don't like him. His name's Thanos. He's a bad guy. We don't like him. And what's interesting about him is he is the adoptive father. This is his adoptive daughter, Gamora, who is part of the Guardians and doesn't like her stepdad very much. And she's also sisters with Nebula, kind of, sort of. There's a lot of family drama. So they're both technically the daughters of Thanos. Yeah, no one likes him. He's not a good guy. So that one ends with the Guardians retrieving the orb and putting it on a planet called Xandar with the Nova Corps. They're good guys. They can protect the orb, and they have a cool, fancy vault. But they aren't aware that this guy already has one of the Infinity Stones. So that one's still on his planet, which is called Nowhere, because it's nowhere in particular. And then Guardians 1, Groot dies. That's this tree, humanoid tree thing. I believe that's his name. He never really says it, but his name is Groot. It's supposed to be funny. Okay.
I am Groot.
Because that's all he says. All he says is, I am Groot. So He dies in that one, but worry not, he comes back as a smaller Groot, known as Baby Groot. You can't really see that, but he's like a little baby, a little twig. So he's like slowly growing up over that course of time. And we also get a new Guardians recruit called Mantis. That's this kind of bug lady right here. She's an airpath, which is different from like a telepath. Like she can feel feelings through touch, and she can also like make people like go to sleep or wake up. Kind of socially awkward, but aren't we all? So she's really sweet. That's what happens in both Guardians. I kind of skipped around, but like these two are pretty much instantaneous in their own little timeline. So they're just out roaming the universe, jamming songs, 2-time galaxy savers. So that's where they are. But back on Earth, the Avengers are going through a little bit of a rough patch. So in Civil War, the governments of the world decide that the Avengers, they destroyed a lot of places. Like they destroyed an entire city, 2 cities. Like they just keep going around destroying everything. And since S.H.I.E.L.D. collapsed, they are kind of on their own. They're running themselves. And so the governments of the world decide they can't tolerate that anymore. Like these guys need some kind of guidance. They can't just like run around, destroy everything, and save everything at the same time. So that's when like the Avengers kind of split because
The time line.
Here, you just gotta,
yeah, you just gotta like press it.
share behind it.
Space bar and then come back.
Here, I'll send you a share behind it, and I'll scoop.
So Iron Man believes that they should sign, like, they propose like the Sokovia Accords. That's what the rule thing is called. So Iron Man thinks that they should. That's not the right slide. There we got it. And back again. All right.
Is that gonna work, or is it gonna?
I don't.
I think that
I
little way
think
would
pause it. Yeah. Go back. There we go.
We don't want to.
Bleed- yeah,
I think
just
that's.
Yeah?
No,
No,
no.
Okay.
leave it there.
Sorry,
Okay.
here we go.
No, you're good.
It's a team.
So Iron Man believes that they should sign the Sokovia Accords because he's made a lot of mistakes himself and thinks that they need some kind of guidance, some kind of someone to oversee them and like say, hey, don't do that, or like work something else out, or like whatever. So he believes that they need to accept the limitations. Otherwise, they're no better than the bad guys. Like that's his point of view on that. But Captain America, like he's a soldier. He's devoted everything he's got into S.H.I.E.L.D., which just turned out to be another version of Hydra. So he's just like slowly losing faith in his government and his country. So he thinks that they shouldn't. That even though they've made mistakes, they should still take responsibility, and the safest hands are still their own. They should be able to make their own decisions. Because the bad thing about the Sokovia Accords is it gives the people, like the government, the power to tell them to not go somewhere. So like if something's going down in Russia or North Korea, and the Avengers like, oh, we gotta go help them, then the Sokovia Accords can say, nah, don't go help them, stay here, you're good. Which, for Captain Rogers, that doesn't fly. Like, he wants to save everyone he can, including Bucky Barnes, his friend, who is like kind of himself sometimes, but then kind of not, because he was under Hydra's control for so long. So all of the world thinks he's a bad guy and he should be put in jail or worse. But Steve is like, no, he's my buddy. Like, don't do that. So everyone on Captain America's side fights to protect Bucky. There's like a bunch of other stuff going on, but that's basically what they were doing. And then all of Team Iron Man was on the government side and was like trying to bring them to justice because they didn't know the full story of what was happening. So that was a pretty good divide between them, and it ended pretty roughly. Now all of Team Cap, since they didn't sign the Sokovia Accords and didn't obey them, they broke the law. So they've kind of been on the run and in hiding, so they're not like arrested. And including Black Widow, who was originally on Team Iron Man, but she cares about Steve too, so she kind of broke the law as well. So all of these guys, they're on the run, and no one's really speaking to anyone. And also, Vision and Scarlet Witch have like a thing going on, so Vision's also on the run with her. But yeah, like they're not really on speaking terms. It's kind of sad. But we do get some new recruits. we get Spider-Man and Black Panther who join in this crazy fight. Both of them are on Team Iron Man, so they're all good. They go their separate ways right after. Spider-Man goes back to New York. Does anyone not know who Spider-Man is and like his powers and stuff?
Friendly neighborhood.
Yeah, so he goes back to New York doing his thing, and Iron Man's the one who recruited him, so they're like best buds. And at the end of that movie, Iron Man offers him a position, like an official position on the Avengers, like join the team and like help out with them. But he makes a really mature decision and decides, you know, I'm good on the ground. Like I'm good still looking after the little guy because he feels like that's his responsibility. It's not his like responsibility to be in the light, like spotlight or anything. So he turns down this bouncing badass new suit and continues to just stay in New York and stay in school. Kind of skip this. This is Doctor Strange. He's pretty cool. His costume is over there and it looks really awesome. He is like a mystic wizard guy. He's pretty cool. And he can like, even like without, like he has mystical abilities where he can like make portals and do other like cool wizard stuff and spells. And he has this whole like mystic clan thing. So he has like a bunch of other wizard buddies that help defend the world from other dimensional like bad guys, like from like Dormammu, who is like who he fights in that movie, who's like this ultimate being from like another dimension. And like dimensions are different from worlds too. Like Asgard is still in our dimension. Same for like the Guardians. Like dimension is like a whole different thing. But that's what Doctor Strange and all his buddies do. And they have little like home bases called sanctums. And those are in Tokyo, London, and New York. And they're also in possession of our last Infinity Stone, which is the Time Stone, also known as the Eye of Agamotto, right here. And basically like this middle part, like the green part on there, that's like where the actual Time Stone is. That one's also pretty self-explanatory. You can stop time, speed it up, rewind it. You can also do that like for one specific area. Like if you're eating an apple and you finish eating it, you could rewind time so you have an apple again so you can eat that again. And just like on the change time for just one spot. You can also like lock people in like a time loop where you're reliving the same thing over and over again and you're reliving the same thing over and over again. So that's what that can do. And Doctor Strange and all his wizard buddies are like took an oath and they're like protecting it. And they use it to like help protect the earth. Which means that, so that's one that's in New York, right, on Earth. Vision also has one on Earth. And like they said in this one, it's pretty dangerous to have two Infinity Stones on the same planet. So that's kind of scary. So meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, we've got Thor and a bunch of stuff's going down. Him and his brother end up, his brother Loki, from over here, they end up going to a planet called Sakaar, where time works differently. And they're there for who knows how long, and they run into this guy, the Hulk. How did he get there? We don't know. He left in a Quinjet. Suddenly he's on this strange planet. Who knows? That's where he is. So they team up and they find this girl who's Valkyrie. I guess that's her name, but also like mythology stuff. So they team up and they call themselves the Revengers, which is like because they're getting revenge, but they're also like the Avengers. Because, you know, Thor misses his buddies, so he can't really think of an original name. So they go, they protect Asgard and save all of its people by blowing up the planet, because of course, that's what you do. So Asgard gets completely destroyed, but all of them escape with all of the Asgardians on a pretty big ship, because like it's an entire planet's worth of people. So they all escape, Asgard's destroyed, but oh no, wasn't the Tesseract in the vault on Asgard? Does that mean that's destroyed? No. Loki stole it, he has it, got in mischief, you know, it might come in handy later. So he steals that and they all go on this ship. And at the very, very end, like after the movie, after the credits, because that's how long you're supposed to stay, we see them on this big ship, which has to be a pretty big ship, right? We see them, which is this little dot, and then we see this massive, massive ship come up and just be there, and it's huge and ominous, and one can infer that that's this dude's ship. So that's not looking very good for them. But that's where we left these guys. And back to Earth, we have Black Panther. Did anyone not see Black Panther? Do you have to go over that? Some people didn't see. Whoa. Okay. So
I passes after the movie.
I'm shocked. It's still in theaters. Go see it. Pretty much this dude's Black Panther. The entire suit's made out of vibranium, which is the strongest metal in the world. It's what Vision's made out of. It's what Cap's shield is made out of. And yeah, they're pretty cool. There's a general named Okoye who's awesome, and he has a little sister named Shuri who is like a wizard with technology. And Black Panther ends, like a bunch of stuff happens, but it ends with them opening the borders and like telling everyone their huge secret, because this like technologically advanced city in Africa was kept a secret for centuries, like super, super long. So now they're opening their borders and offering their help to other people because they want to help people now. So that's how that one ends. Like, it ends with them telling the world what's going on down there. Which brings us to our next slide, which is why we're all here, Infinity War. So, let's do a head count here. Most people are still in New York, like Iron Man, Spider-Man, they're Rhodey down here. They're just kicking it in New York.
She's not going to spoil anything from the
No,
movie.
this isn't
People are
spoiler
gonna
free.
have to run.
This is spoiler free. The Guardians are kicking it out in space. Thor and Hulk are on their ship. And then all like the Black Panther people are in Wakanda. And we don't know where Team Cap is. They're just like out hiding somewhere in the world. So that's where we left all of our characters. The Infinity Stones are scattered. Two of them are on Earth. 3 of them are out in space. And yeah, this dude's bad. Questions? Any questions?
Oh, it's awesome.
No
Did
questions?
you just rewatch all the movies in the last 3 weeks? Or do you have an incredible memory?
Yeah.
No, actually, I've seen every single movie past the first Avengers opening night, right? Yeah. And I've seen them 1,000 times afterwards, so I just have an insane memory. And this all started with me just like putting up like a bunch of pictures from all the movies on this huge board in my house. And then I got invited to do it here. So yeah, and as you see, I have no cards. I just know all this stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, so as some of you may know, later this summer we have a new movie, Ant-Man and Wasp, coming out. And I'm not sure where that movie takes place in like the timeline, but that's coming out next. But if you can hit this thing, next year there's a new movie coming out called Captain Marvel. I think this is a fan-made poster, but you get the gist. It's starring Brie Larson. I don't know very much about Captain Marvel, but she's pretty cool. This is her symbol, and that's where we're going next for next year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, quick thing about Captain Marvel is that it takes place in the 90s.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
It's gonna star like Nick Fury and
Yeah.
the old Shield people again, so it's gonna kind of
Yeah.
be a flashback.
Yeah, that is like an origin story, but it's good that we are learning about this character, because I do think she might join up with, I'm not sure if she joins in some of the comics. Like the most recent comics coming out, she is like joining up with them. But yeah, she seems like a really cool character.
If
I have a
anyone's a
question.
comic book expert, do you want to tell us what's really cool about Captain Marvel?
Yeah, because I don't. Nina, tell us.
Come on, Nina. What's cool about Captain
Give
Marvel?
us knowledge.
So I actually didn't know a ton about. Oh, the microphone. So I didn't know a ton about Captain Marvel until more recently as well, and I actually went back and watched some 90s Marvel cartoons on Netflix, which were a great way to recap and to kind of like get in and know all the characters. So there are storylines in which, so Captain Marvel, before this version of Captain Marvel came about, there was a Captain Mar-Vel, who was a Kree, the blue guys that are wandering around in the cinematic universe. And he was a good guy, teamed up with the Avengers all the time, and then as part of sort of a refresh of characters and trying to help diversify hero sets, They took this character who is Miss Marvel, who I believe got her powers as Miss Marvel when, at least in the cartoon, she was badly injured, and she was I believe she was a doctor or scientist, and was kind of like trying to help the Avengers out. She got badly injured and she needed a blood transfusion immediately. So what else would you do but have an alien creature like Captain Marvel give her a blood transfusion? That wouldn't change anything. And then because of that, she gets all these similar powers to Captain Marvel, and so she becomes Miss Marvel. And she's kind of this like rough, tough, takes no nonsense kind of character. And eventually, when the original Captain Mar-Vel, there's some panels you can read about. There's a lot of comics that tend to deal with difficult subjects that come up in our society. When the AIDS epidemic came about, there were a lot of comics about HIV and AIDS in our society, kind of like figuring out what that meant for us. The same goes for when cancer started to become more of a big thing, and so there's a storyline in which the original Captain Marvel dies of cancer, and so I believe that's the first time that she takes over the mantle, but there's, in the more current reboot, she takes on the mantle, and it's more of a regular, like, I'm done with my thing, now it's your time to take over, and there's a new character. I'm trying to remember her name. I should bring my wife up here. She's actually more of a nerd than I am, and she doesn't even work in the industry. But the new Miss Marvel is a young Muslim girl living in New Jersey. And so she takes on her mantle, and she has all these kind of awesome Mr. Fantastic stretchy powers, and like has to deal with like being a high schooler and being a superhero at the same time, and they're just really fun things. So that's kind of my spiel on Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No, you're
I don't want to take your spotlight.
I don't know much. I want to learn more.
Bella, I had a question for you. So what was it in Avengers, the first movie, or in Iron Man 2, when the aliens hit New York?
That was in the first Avengers.
Right. Okay, and that was Thanos, wasn't it? Was that the first introduction of Thanos?
It kind of was, not until like the very end, but Loki was sent to Earth to retrieve the Tesseract and conquer. He was sent by Thanos, and
Okay.
it's one of Thanos' many armies called the Chitauri that was the aliens that actually came and destroyed everything. But we killed all of them, so
Yeah.
we won.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.